Hello, Knicks Nation. Welcome to the Knicks-Verse. Oh man, today we have a lot to talk about. But before we get to the trade discussion, we have got to talk about what's happening here. The New York Knicks, 18-17. They are currently fourth alone in the Eastern Conference. Nobody expected this. Knicks used to be the laughingstock of the NBA, the butt of jokes. Everybody got a nice chuckle. Well, who's laughing now? I know who's not laughing. Every single team that has to face these Knicks. Oh, this is what's happened in the month of February. Knicks have gone 9-5. 9-5. They've won 7 of their last 9 games. They're currently number 1 defense in points allowed and number 2 in defensive efficiency. Oh man. And something else has happened because it could not have, that record could not have happened without Batman finally finding his Robin. That's right. Ben has found Jerry, Key has found Peel, and now Gotham City's Batman has found his Robin. His name is Rowan Barrett Jr. Oh my God. Look, there has been a lot of issues with RJ. A lot of issues with RJ. There's people that love him. There's people that just hate on him. To me, the hate is irrational. But the thing is, a year ago, our Batman looked like the Joker. Come on, we all know. Even he knew it. He knew he squandered last year, and that's the beautiful part about what he's done. Oh, he has looked inward and projected outward the person that he wants to be on and off the court, and that has become infectious. That has impacted the overall team, along with Thibs' his leadership. But man, I cannot talk enough about how exciting it is right now to be a Knicks fan, right? Isn't this the best time that we have had since, that 2013 playoff run? This is it. And even that, we knew they weren't going to win the championship. So we were like, okay, let's ride this as far as we can. And if it weren't for Tyson getting sick before the playoffs, who knows what could have happened. But look, we know RJ. Look, RJ, he's a baby. And what do babies do? They shit themselves. And sometimes they do it right in front of our eyes, right on the court. And it's like, oh. But what does he do? He goes off, gets those baby wipes, cleans himself up, he gets back on that court, and he inflicts pain. Because here's another thing babies do. Babies feed. Babies grow. Babies learn. And babies become men. And right now, the New York Knicks have 2 men that are leading the way. And nobody knows, nobody can say how good this team can become. Because nothing that has happened in the past can dictate what's going to happen in the future with these 2 gentlemen, the rest of the squad, and their coach, Tom Thibodeau. But let's talk about the front office. Leon Rose, Worldwide Wes, Scott Perry, and whoever else, and their boss, James Dolan. They have a dilemma. It's the Nets dilemma. What's gonna happen? What's gonna happen in New York when the Nets, come on, look, I do bleed orange and blue. This wall is painted orange for my son. This is my son's room that I'm recording this. He's in college now, but when he was a kid, we painted, he said, what colors do you want to paint your room? Dad, orange and blue. So they are facing a dilemma. The Nets are poised to represent the East in the NBA Finals. Gonna guess right now, that's probably what's gonna happen. So, what are the Knicks gonna do? It's gonna be painful. So we're stuck between the future pain and agony of watching a Nets parade down Brooklyn, probably Flatbush Avenue, and staying the course, letting this team continue to build on the chemistry that has taken place. Julius Randle in February is averaging 25, 11, and 5. 49 points, almost 50% of his field goals he's hitting. But from the three, 46.3%. That's an entire month of February. RJ, for the entire month of February, 14, 6, and 3. From the three-point line, he's averaging 47.4%. Now, in the last 7 games, he's up to 17, 6, and 2. His field goal percentage is up to 48.9%, almost 49% from the field. But his three-point shooting, 60.9%, 61% basically from the three. Can't disrupt this. You know, I do want to mention that 3 of those 7 games have come without Elf. Elf, once he was put on that shelf, these Knicks are starting to congeal beautifully. Derrick Rose, major props to you. Yes, you make mistakes sometimes. You know, your legs aren't what they used to be, but your mind, your basketball acumen is so high. You can see the way you're looking for players, the way I gotta credit you for feeding Barrett and Julius. And I love it. And then Barrett feeding Julius. And it's just this beautiful thing that's happening. And Burks and Noel. This is a fabulous day to be a Knicks fan. We're gonna revel in it. But I have some ideas. I'm gonna discuss the trades, rumors that have been going around, and what pieces can be added to see how far these Knicks can go. How good are these Knicks? You know how good they are? I think they're gonna hold on to the 4th seed. I think by the end of this regular season, the Knicks will be in 4th place. That's my prediction. Because I do believe that the front office will make a move or two to help solidify this cake. Well, maybe let's look at it this way. Thibs and Rose have been baking a cake here. It's in the oven right now. We all know what you don't do with baking. You don't disturb it. Let it happen. Then put the frosting on. Yes. Then write whatever shit you want to write on it. Yes. That's what you do. Oh, so excited. All right, but let's talk trades. Let's go. All right, let's talk about potential target for the Knicks. Scary Terry. Terry Rozier, Charlotte Hornets. They're not really shopping him per se, but they kind of have a glut at the guard position. Malik Monk, Devontae Graham, though he's currently injured, and the other super rook in the NBA after our boy IQ, LaMelo. Terry Rozier has been rumored to come to the Knicks for years now, and for good reason. There's a reason he has that nickname. He was an excellent defender when he first started out with Boston. He's dropped off this season. There's definitely been a bit of a decline. That's worrisome because when players get old, though he's 26, which is excellent because he's about the same age as Julius. So that timeline works because again, we want young players whose better days are ahead. And he seems to be exactly like that in terms of his offensive game. He is right now having career year in terms of his offense. He's averaging 20.6 points a game. And remember, he's coming off the bench now. He did start, I think he started about, 13 games or so. But regardless, he's averaging 20.6 points. His field goal percentage is 49.2%. Nice. That is nice. What's even nicer is 3-point shooting percentage, 44.3%. Both of those are career marks for him. So he is trending up. That's what we're looking for here. His assists are down a little. That could be because his minutes are less than they've been in the past. He's at 3.1%, which 3.1 assists per game, which is still, that's nice. So let's look at his defense. On the positive side of his defense, he's still a menace on the court in terms of his turnover percentage. He's in the 67th percentile compared to other players in his position, which is 14.7%. That's what his turnover percentage that he's causing. His steal percentage is at 1.6%, which is, again, in the upper echelon. On the downside is his on-off differential. He's a minus 6.6, which is in the 23rd bottom quarter at his position. So that's what I'm talking about, the defensive part. Again, that could be impacted by some of the players he's on the court with now that he's coming off the bench, but he is the sixth man, so he is, and actually he's a sixth man of the year candidate. So sharing the court with a lot of the starters. So that's a troublesome mark. The other two things that are troublesome are his salary. This year he's at 18.9 million. Next year, though, it drops down a little bit, 17.9 million. However, for the type of shooting he is providing, that's not bad salaries. So, but he's only signed through next season. All right, so that means what will he cost? So I would say if he could be added to this team without giving up anything that is going to really hurt us down the road, then I'm a maybe on this. I'm a maybe. There's been some proposals out there by some other writers, media outlets. There was a proposed trade of Rozier and Cody Martin for Knox, Burks, and other elements. I think possibly even Nerlens Noel and the Dallas pick, I believe, for this. Though that might be an overreach. Maybe the Detroit second rounder this season, which is basically the latest first rounder pick. That could be interesting. Charlotte they need a big man who can defend. And that's what Nerlens does. But we need Nerlens now. So these are the issues. But honestly, if somehow the front office found a way to bring Terry on board without giving up any key pieces, I think this one is a 2 thumbs up. So I went from maybe to 2 thumbs up. Okay, let's go to the next one. All right, so this next trade is more on the blockbuster level that we were talking about last week in the buyers or sellers video. But the person that's been mentioned is someone that makes a lot of sense in terms of who our coach is. And that's none other than Jimmy Buckets. Jimmy Butler. Yeah, it's been floated out there. The problem is it's going to cost an arm, a leg, like an ear, and somebody's daughters. Because basically, Miami Heat is on a roll right now. And they've recently beaten the Jazz, the Lakers. This was a team, we all remember, made it to the finals in the bubble. So if they can put that back together, that formula that got them through the East playoffs, I just don't see Riles trading him, especially to the New York Knicks. But just to recap, the actual pros and cons. On the pro side, like we mentioned, Thibs, their relationship, obviously, that's something that is something very special. They've won together. They similar to the Derrick Rose dynamic. So there would be a lot of pluses there. Also, he's a top 10 two-way player, and he's tough. He can handle New York. I'm pretty sure he can handle New York. The cons are, well, like I said, Miami's on that win streak. They seem to have righted their ship that had kind of gone off course. So now he will cost even more to get him. And by cost, is what they're talking about. RJ, Obi, a Burks, and a first round pick. Probably the Dallas one. The other con is he's 31 years old. So he's not the type of player we're looking at right now. But that is offset by, basically that he is a top 10 two-way player and the connection with them. So those two things offset each other. And he is 31. He is a tremendous athlete. So he's someone that I don't see his fall off being very steep. He's probably going to maintain his physical attributes pretty well for the next couple of seasons. However, let's talk about, where he's at right now. He's at 20.1 points a game right now. His assists and rebounds are 7.8, almost 8 assists and rebounds per game. So it's a 28-8 guy. Wow. That's pretty fantastic. His field goal percentage, 44.2. But the real eyesore here is his 3-point percentage. He's at 21.9%. Now, I know that he's one of those guys that, when in the heat of, when the stakes are high in crunch time, especially playoffs, he'll hit you a couple of 3-pointers when you desperately need it. But, that's probably going to come down some now, because if you look at his trends, remember, I'm big on trends. 17-18 season, when he was with Thibs in Minnesota, his field goal percentage, which combines his 2-point field goals with 3-point field goals, which are worth more. So this averages out for those who don't know what field goal percentage is. And it's a very key stat, especially for a player like Jimmy Buckets. He was at 51.6% in 2017-18. Then in 18-19, which was split between the Timberwolves and the Sixers, it went down to 49.9%. Then last season, the bubble season, the COVID and then bubble season, 47.4%. So it's coming down. And this season, that trend continues, 45.3%. So that tells me that what he has to offer for the Knicks, we won't fully be able to take advantage of it the way the Heat can, because the Heat have superior 3-point shooting. Though this season they're down a little bit. But Duncan Robinson, one of the top 5 3-point shooters in the game. Tyler Herro, which, he definitely is a superior 3-point shooter, though he's having a bit of a down year right now. But as shooters at any moment can just lock in and just take off. They have Redick, Olynyk, Adebayo. They have a lot of guys who, even Myers Leonard, they have a lot of guys who can fill it up from downtown to help compensate for what, Jimmy can't do. So they can really fully maximize Jimmy's pluses. Knicks don't have that. So not only from the standpoint that the Heat won't do this trade right now, you never know in the offseason. You never know what happens. And I think this is kind of one of those things you want to keep an eye on, because if certain pieces can fall together and certain pieces that are currently on the team could keep surging, no one's really surging right now except for IQ. But let's say RJ, he gets back to that trend that 15, 16 games where he was just, just really surging. If that can become the RJ, so you become dependable, then you bring in a Jimmy Buckets in the offseason. we could be talking about something. But you'd have to keep RJ, so that's the problem. So we'll have to see about that. However, at the moment, that's a big thumbs down for a Jimmy Butler trade to New York. All right, let's go to the next one. Okay, so the next trade proposal idea is actually a really, really interesting one because it brings the Knicks something that they desperately need, which is more outside shooting. And they can use an asset that is currently just collecting cobwebs on the bench. Austin Rivers. Austin Rivers and a second rounder, a future second rounder, for JJ Redick. This has been proposed in Bleacher Report. Surprisingly, I agree with this one. Usually Bleacher Report has some crazy ideas, but this time they're pretty on point with this one. Not only do we get to activate our cap space that we lose if we don't activate it. We don't use the cap space, it's gone. So we don't necessarily have to take on salary. We don't have to send them salary to bring JJ on. We just send Austin and his $3 million something contract and a second rounder, and we land one of the best 3-point shooters of the past 10 years. Now I know you guys are saying, wait a second, isn't he shooting terribly? Isn't he like terrible in New Orleans right now? Well, yeah, he did start off the first 16 games. He was at 29.8% from downtown, which is atrocious, at 5.3 attempts per game. His overall points per game was 7.9. So you would think, what are you talking about? This guy, he can't help us. Well, since February 1st, he's up to 46.8% from behind the line. And we know this is his forte. This is his resume. So it's not, something that's totally unusual for him. This is who he is. And if you look at, he's also doing it on less attempts, 3.6. So, and his points per game went up a little bit to 8.1%. So what is this saying? This is saying that with less usage, he's providing slightly increased scoring at a higher efficiency. What's not to love? What's not to love? Yes, the cons are he's old as F, 36. But honestly, I had my pros and cons list. I couldn't come up with another con. His pros are he will slot in perfectly on the bench with this team. Thibs can turn to him when we need him. There's no commitment to being forced to use him. And the best part is that he can teach. He can teach IQ and RJ how to get their shots off, how to find those open spaces on the floor. Maybe even RJ can learn how to shoot off the dribble from behind the arc, which would be really, can you imagine when that happens? Oh, the sky will be the limit when that happens. So overall, this trade is a big thumbs up for me. This is absolutely a thumbs up. Of course, if another better trade idea comes along that uses our cap space, that brings us even greater assets with higher value, then that's where we should go. But if nothing else presents itself and we can't let the cap space just die, this is the trade to do. All right, let's go to the next one. All right, so the next trade rumor that's been out there is between the Rockets and the Knicks, which is Eric Gordon, PJ Tucker, and it would cost the Knicks Alec Burks, Kevin Knox, Frank Ntilikina, and 3 second rounders. I think both of the Detroit ones, and forgot what the other one was. All right, so this trade, let's look at it in terms of what it actually means for this season for the Knicks. Bringing in Eric Gordon would be a boost for the ability for the Knicks to go further in the playoffs. He's a good shooting guard. He can handle the point. He can play alongside IQ, which is nice. The negatives are his age. And he has 2 more years on his contract, which is, it's a sizable contract. $16.9 million this season 18.2 next season, and 19.6 the season after that. Now, if he gives you, great productivity, then it's worth it. But here are his 3-point percentages this season. He's at 33.7%. That's not that good for a point guard. A shooting guard. And that's on 8 attempts. So the volume's there, which is good. The efficiency, well, actually, this season he's at a career high in his EFG, which is at 55%. So he is completing at the rim at a higher percentage this season than he has in the past. That's good. That's good, because when the floor is open and he finally gets to the basket, he will complete at a higher rate than a lot of the guards that we currently have on the roster. And PJ Tucker, not much needs to be said about what he brings. He's an excellent defender despite his age. When we need that extra jolt of defense on the floor, Thibs can turn to him and bring him in. What it costs us is Burks, Knox, Ntilikina, and in a lot of ways, if you look at those 2 players with the 3 that we're giving up, we kind of already can piece together the contributions that those 2 would give with the 3 that we already have, especially now that Frank is currently back in the rotation. So Burks, his shots clicking again. Hopefully, what he did the other night continues, which I think it will. He's a very good shooter, and I think he was just having a down period for whatever reason. Maybe he likes the second unit more. Maybe playing alongside IQ is a better fit for him. So, in this respect, we might not add more than we lose, especially, like I said, if we keep Frank in the mix. And we lose an asset, which is Kevin Knox, who I still believe that he could, if utilized properly, he could be that Robert Horry type player who comes in and just bombs from the corner, boom, boom, boom. So, at this point, I would say I am a thumbs down on this trade proposal. I just don't see it really benefiting the Knicks in the long term. This would be just a short-term solution, and it would shackle them with a player with a pretty big contract for too many seasons. And, we lose PJ after the season because he's only signed through the end of the year. So, that's a no. Now for this next trade, before we get to it, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit that like button. Much appreciated. All right, let's jump into it. This is the last trade idea, and it's for none other than LaMelo's older brother, Lonzo. Lonzo Ball should come to the New York Knicks. The problem is what it would cost. That part, right now, the trade proposal is Knicks get Lonzo, and we give up Burks, Frank, and the 2022 first round pick. No way. No way for that. It's too much to give up for a restricted free agent. He could walk. And we don't know if how the future's going to shake out, if he would be the starting point guard for next season and the season after that. So, if we could get him without sacrificing a draft pick, or, I mean, it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one. But let's talk about what he's been doing, what he could bring the Knicks. Well, for one thing, for the season, he's averaging 14.5 points a season, 5 assists, and 4 rebounds. That's one thing. He's a good rebounder. He's a good defender. He can defend multiple positions. But the thing that's always been funky about him is his 3-point shot. Like, basically, he doesn't have one. Well, that has totally changed. I don't know what's happening around the NBA, but some guys are making huge leaps forward. He's averaging for the whole season almost 40%. He's averaging 39.3% for the season. But in the month of February, he's averaging 46%. Incredible. His Points per game is up to 16.5 points. He's up to 5.5 assists and up to 4.5 rebounds. So he is coming on right now. I know we have Rose, who's doing a phenomenal job as our starter. But as if you've watched my other videos, you know I'm concerned. I'm concerned about his durability. I'm concerned about him being able to deliver for 4 quarters. You could even see it over the past weekend. Even though he had a fantastic games, there were times where he just had those moments where he just his body wasn't doing what his mind wanted him to do, and then he had to adjust. And sometimes it didn't work out so well. It was turnovers and bad fouls, and he was even frustrated. You can see the frustration on his own face. There's nothing more frustrating for an athlete than to know what you should be doing, what you have been able to do, but your body just can't do it anymore. But that's not an occurrence. That's not like it's happening all the time. There are just moments. He just kind of like reaches a max, almost like his battery overheats and the phone shuts off. It's like that. So this trade would be in a way to help preserve and extend Rose's shelf life. Not on the shelf, but his durability, his expiration date, extended. And plus the fact that Lonzo can play alongside Rose sometimes, and he can play alongside IQ, and let those guys not have to worry about having the ball in their hands all the time. Give them a break. But at the same time, he's big. He can, like I just said, defend multiple positions, and he can just stroke that 3. God, right now, his rim efficiency, that still needs improvement. But if somehow, Mr. Rose can figure out a way to get Lonzo and JJ Redick in a package deal without disrupting the core of this franchise, the cake that's baking, that is a double win. Let's do that. Let's go for it. All right. Well, again, thanks a lot for checking in. And, reminder, subscribe, like button, many more videos coming. The long in the process RJ Barrett video is still in the works. It's going to answer the question, or at least address the question of how good is RJ Barrett. Thank you. See you around in Knicks-Verse.